behind the scenes.
Oh,
Welcome to Behind the Scenes. State of the Ozarks Been Thinking About podcast. This is Christine Riutzel.
Me.
And of course, Ethan.
Yep.
Alejandro.
See? My favorite artist is here.
Oh, thanks.
You wish. I do not like swords like you, Ethan.
That's true.
That's a very odd fluttering sound
Well,
that you make.
Alejandro's my
It's my hate sound, and I have a less sound. It's to my favorite artist. And by the way, the chalk walk was done by Josh, and his chalk was very impressive.
It's a lot of it. So there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we got that out of the way, we ready to start?
Oh, yes. Welcome to the State of the Ozarks podcast. This is Josh Heston, Editor-in-Chief.
And this is Ethan Grubaugh,
And we're talking about our Ozarks.
your community.
And this episode of Been Thinking About has been brought to you by
Artist Christine Riutzel, Beauty from Light.
Stafford's Barbershop and Shave Company, the place for men in downtown Branson.
Shepherd the Musical, rediscovering America's story.
Blue Rock Print Company, upgrade your look.
And the Taney County Health Department, creating opportunities for healthy lives in our community.
That is pretty doggone awesome.
Yep.
And we're glad that you're listening.
Yeah.
And we're also excited to have Christine Riutzel coming in to join us here in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, but we have, of course, this is issue 591, Chicken Mulligatawny. That happens to be a soup-based stew, but we're not going to talk too much about that. Roads to Bonniebrook.
Last time we spent like an hour talking about potatoes.
Yes, we did. Potatoes consumed our conversation. And then Roads to Bonniebrook, specifically one of your favorite subjects of all time, the magic and mystery of Kewpie dolls.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Let me say that again. Just do the same thing that you did before.
Okay.
The magic and mystery of Kewpie dolls.
Yeah.
I love having my Cricut box. Love having the Cricut box. So, it's, of course, well, this is leading up to the Bonniebrook Spring Open House.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to be on Saturday. And we've had a lot to do with Bonniebrook over the years.
Yeah.
And I took you out to Bonniebrook.
Oh gosh, what was it? Like,
It was a long
I
time
think it
ago.
was like 14 or 15, something like that.
Yeah, you were not very old. I don't know
No.
what we were doing.
I think you were just saying, hey, I'm going to go cover this. Do you want to come with me?
I think that's
And
so.
I said, yeah.
Because you
so-
didn't know what you were getting into.
Yeah, I had no idea. See, I remember passing the sign going up 65 for
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
I always thought with the weird little doll creature that they have on the
On the sign? Mhm.
I always related that to like the thing down in Arkansas that also has the little angel baby things. You know, is it
Oh.
the Promise or Passion, something like that?
I don't know.
No,
I don't know. This is new for me.
there's something else down in Arkansas. I can't remember what it is.
There's a lot down in Arkansas.
Like Arkansasians. Anyway,
you Missouri boy.
I had
you.
no idea what the heck it was.
Yes, and I
You enlightened me.
lured you into the lair of the Kewpie.
That's a good way of putting it.
Now, I think that there's like two camps. We'll talk about this more, but there's like two camps. There's the people who go, Kewpies are really cute, and then there's your camp. And of course, one of the great things about the Been Thinking About podcast is we pretty much say our mind. So, share your thoughts about the Kewpie.
The other camps are idiots.
All
Alright, what's your thoughts? They stare into your soul, and they're with their weird little baby faces.
Staring,
Yeah,
following you. Their eyes follow you.
yeah.
Of course, Kewpie dolls used to be really popular.
For some reason.
I think they're endearing. I'm in the camp that finds Kewpie dolls very cute.
You know what else was popular?
What's that?
Cocaine and Coca-Cola.
Oh my gosh! I think there's a line in here that yes, childhood magic lost. Right there. So of course, just as a little intro, for people who don't know, Rose O'Neill was a great illustrator,
Mhm.
world-renowned illustrator, who had several estates, And her favorite, at least according to her, was Bonniebrook, which is located about 6 miles north of present-day Branson.
Kind of over by Bear Creek.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Bear Creek and past the horses.
Yeah, because there's like the horses on one side of the highway, and then there's Bonniebrook on the other.
On the other, yes, right up Bear Creek, right there. Reconstructed mansion, and then also the art gallery, which contains a lot of her illustrative work. She died in the mid-1940s. I believe she died in 1944. But she started as a very young artist, and she was a prolific artist in New York City at the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century.
Sorry, I just remembered the little angel things I was talking about. I think it's like Precious Moments or something like that. That's what I
You're
was
thinking in Joplin. That's
Yeah,
not
okay.
Arkansas.
See, I don't know.
You haven't collected precious
No.
moments, have you? Well, that's probably a good thing for you.
I didn't even know where Bonniebrook was until you dragged me there. So
so much fun. So of course we invite people to weigh in on whether they love or hate the Kewpie doll.
yeah, remember there is a right answer.
Oh,
I'm not backing down on this one.
hashtag haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
I of course for the upcoming quick plug for Writers Artist Night, June 21st.
Yeah.
Vintage Paris. Lots of great writers, lots of great artists paired together, and of course I can't compete because I'm one of the organizers of the event, but I can participate, and I finished my story.
Ooh.
Yes, it is entitled Kewpie.
You told me about this one.
And I decided, again, disclaimer for anybody who just absolutely loves Kewpie dolls.
For some reason.
For anybody who loves Kewpie dolls and they're really angry right now, don't throw your Kewpie at me or your Kewpie-shaped pillow or whatever it is that you have.
Just put some of his hair on it and it'll know what to do. Like a voodoo doll.
That's voodoo spelled Voudou, and it is a recognized religion in Haiti.
Okay.
So, but I decided to take a cue from you guys. Even though I personally have traditionally found Kewpie dolls very endearing, I decided to take a cue from you guys. And I wrote the first, to my knowledge, Kewpie horror story.
Ooh.
Yes. And Seth Daughtry is going to be the illustrator, and he's already gotten the article. He said it was super creepy. He's very happy with it. He also finds Kewpie dolls incredibly creepy.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he is on Facebook right now. He changed his name temporarily as some sort of gag between he and another friend, and he's going as Turok Daughtry instead of Seth Daughtry. So, and he posts all sorts of really crazy stuff. And so I keep going on, and the only thing that I'll post on is just the comment, "Oh, Turok." Oh, comma, Turok. Period.
Where's the cricket box?
It's getting a lot of traction on social media.
Yeah.
So, with that, let's get Christine Riutzel in here,
All right.
and we'll go from there. I'll
Okay.
see you at the outro.
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
Transition.
57,
You still need that?
No, I don't. I can do this from memory.
Okay. I'll call me back in.
Okay.
Bye.
Give me one moment.
Okay, Alejandro. Left my beer outside. That's so sad.
Go get it. We're
Oh,
in
yeah.
infinity
Yeah, go
time.
get it.
We'll be back. And we're back on the behind the scenes
Yay.
with Christine
What's
Riutzel.
up?
Oh yeah, your mic.
What?
Oh, keep
Ignore
going.
the hand.
It's Alejandro's
I forgot.
manservant's hand.
Just stick that spot. You're good.
And I've got my root beer.
Liar.
Yeah.
We were
good
liars.
beer.
I know, it's such good root beer.
That is not root beer. That
It's
is water in dark water glass.
I have my water. And it's
Hers is
actually
vodka.
water. No. It's vinegar, bitch. So good.
You hurt me with your words, but I like it.
Well, I like you, Alejandro.
Oh my gosh. Good root beer. Christine Riutzel.
Hi.
It is good to have you in here.
Yeah, good to be here.
And of course, you are, well, shameless plug. You are here because you are a State of the Ozarks member and a State of the Ozarks podcast partner.
That's right, but I'm also your biggest fan of the State of the Ozarks podcast.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just get this out of the way. You're an amazing artist.
Oh my God, thank you.
And you are so talented.
Thanks.
And of course, we were talking crap about this earlier, but I am genuinely a really big fan of your art.
Well, I know that because you have bought one of my pieces before.
Yeah.
So people can compliment me all they want, but when they show me their money, I know they really like me.
That makes a big difference.
It does.
It makes a big difference.
Support your local artist.
Very much so. So, and of course, we need to figure out what your actual title is. Of course, you are a State of the Ozarks member, and you are an artist, but you are a co-inspirer.
Yeah.
I suppose would be the right term, or almost co-founder.
I'd say co-founder, but I didn't do any of the grunt work like you did. I was just there cheering you on, giving you ideas.
And the ideas were good.
Yeah.
The ideas were very good. So the what is now the hashtag Soda Life community of 120 plus members started in August of 2016 with a conversation between the two of us and at Vintage Paris. Talking about what we did and did not want in an art community.
Yeah, I think, well, I've lived here most of my life. I started getting involved in a local art organization and just constantly talking to people about, like, I want Branson to become more than just tourism. I don't really know what my role would be in it, but I want to see galleries. I want to see young artists thriving. I want to see older artists getting paid, like, for their work. I want something. And I was always talking to people, and a lot of people have ideas about, like, Branson needs this and Branson needs that, but no one actually wants to put in the work to establish something. And so I finally was, I was seeing Josh a lot, and he was like, yeah, I totally get it. And we just kind of kept talking about, like, what we see in our community and, like, how we can make it happen organically. Yeah,
and that was that was the beginning of it. So we had that first art event in September, and it was really successful. We just had a few people, a few artists that we know get together on the patio of Vintage Paris, and we had them bring their art pieces, and we set up with the easels, and we hung out and we socialized, and it was very uplifting and encouraging to, like, see people's art in person and talk to them about, because you see them posted on social media, and there's really only so much, like, amazing, love this, that I can tolerate. And exactly.
I always leave a comment, but most of the time I'm like, I really just want to talk to this person in person and talk about art and consistently have these, like, little art get-togethers, and hopefully it'll grow from there. Yeah, and so then we did that. And I think one of the things that we talked about was the issues of sustainability. Like, you put together the idea for a great event, and then if it looks like you're not going to get the attendance, then you may pull the plug on the event. And so then you essentially get to the end of your calendar year, and you have, like, 14 canceled events and nothing to show for it. And I remember us having the conversation that we counted that it would be a successful event if the only two artists who showed up were the two of us. Yes. And low expectations. Very low. Very happy expectations, but super low. If it was an attendance of 2, we were good. And then, but the benefit of that was that it meant that we could sustain. Because we knew we could turn around and, maybe the next time we do it, maybe we could get 4. Well, it helps that we actually like each other. That is a good start. That is a very good start. But we had, I think Dale counted 60 plus people that first night. Yeah. In attendance at Vintage Paris. And one of the things, of course, that I really liked was the accessibility factor. Like, people who just wandered in for coffee did not feel uncomfortable about just coming out and hanging out at the patio. Right. While we were doing stuff. And then that October was when the figure drawing group was celebrating its first year. Oh, yeah. And I invited I talked to Tennille, and then I just invited the Figure Drawing Club to come and hang out
Yeah.
at the same time. And that bumped our numbers up even bigger than the first night. And it was at that point I was just sitting on the patio looking at people interacting and socializing and enjoying being able to interact in this really safe kind of environment. And I went, what if we don't just include artists?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next event was a traditional Soto get together at Victor Cairo that we had artists plus other folks on November 1st of 2016.
Yeah.
And then it's been basically hang on for dear life with 2 festivals now under our belt.
Yeah.
Since then.
I'm blown away about how hard you're working to make this happen. I just kind of, like I said, I just sit there and I talk and make art. I don't actually work hard at anything.
I've seen your murals. I've seen your murals. I know how hard you work. And so let's talk about this community.
Okay.
You grew up here. I want to get your perspectives of growing up here in what could be considered certainly obviously a tourist center, but also something of an art desert.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy?
What's that?
Is the only other places that I've visited that I'm like, I could see myself living here have been other tourist towns.
Which ones?
Like the Wisconsin Dells.
Yeah.
And Reno.
Wow.
Other than that, I'm like, is that weird? Oh no, and I have lived in Bristol, Tennessee, which is home of NASCAR, so that's another big tourist town.
There you go.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
You are drawn to tourism centers.
I don't know why.
It's all
I don't leave my house.
It's all do you have a thing about souvenirs?
No. No, it's funny. Just in case I want to go out and do something, I'll have plenty of options.
That's right.
What if I want to see a show? What if I want to see Celine Dion? I mean, no, she's in Vegas. Never
She's
mind.
in Vegas. Well,
anyway, yeah.
Somewhere between Reno and Branson is Vegas.
Sure.
My nephew was just in Vegas.
Yeah.
Completely aside. He wasn't going for Vegas. It was just on the way through to where he was going.
Okay.
Yeah. He said, we were there for like 10 minutes. We just kind of looked around.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
You gotta go at least once in your life to experience it,
Mhm.
and then you don't want to go back ever again.
This message has been
Well,
brought
that's what people say. So I don't know.
This message has not been brought to you by the Las Vegas Tourism Council.
Yeah, no. Okay. What were you saying about
growing up in Branson.
Yeah, I actually grew up in Forsyth, so my mom hauled me and my 4 other siblings in a conversion, and like a 1988 Chevy conversion van into Branson almost every day to do something.
Yes. And you were homeschooled too.
I was homeschooled.
And so was I.
And I was very involved in a lot of things in Branson, which is why I know a lot of people and I have a lot of enemies.
That comes with being an artist.
Yeah, I guess. No, but like, I was very interested in art at a young age. I remember looking through our encyclopedias at the very few pictures that were in there, and I wanted to be an interior designer, so I was looking at the interior design column in the encyclopedia. I mean, this was before the internet. Like, I didn't have anything to go off of, and I was like, I want to be an interior designer. But because we rented...
Like those encyclopedias there?
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, because we rented my whole life, I could never even paint my room. So I didn't really get... I wasn't able to really do that, but my mom did get me involved in art classes in high school, and that really helped me. But yeah, there's really nothing around here that inspired me, or I didn't have anyone locally here that was like, yeah, like, let me help you or whatever, which is why I'm so passionate about like helping kids. I say kids, I mean high school kids, like I'm so old. No, but like yeah, and that's why and I'll be in Springfield talking to people, and they're like, oh, Branson, yeah, I've been to SDC, but it's just, like, so lame, and I'm like, yeah, I hope it's not going to be lame forever. I mean, I want it to be, like, a Eureka Springs. I want it to be, like, a Bentonville, like, somewhere where all the cool kids come, like, you can buy handmade local pieces from art, you're not just buying souvenirs. You're not just spending your money on entertainment, which is great. I'm all about for people coming to Branson and spending their money locally. I'm all for that. But I mean, the locals are really starving for more, which is why I'm so passionate about Stay the Ozarks. Is because we are having like that old-fashioned community get-togethers. People are getting to know each other. We're talking outside of social media. Like, we're coming up with cool art projects to do together. We're having ideas. Like, things are happening.
Yeah.
And I love, and it's like outside of a church. It's outside of school. You know, it's happening
in the real world.
It's more than like what I imagined, especially because when people think about ideas, like I want to do this thing in my hometown, but they get so overwhelmed,
Right.
Because one person can't do everything. It's impossible. Like, focus on what you're really good at, and then connect with people that can help you along the way.
Yeah, and I think we've got a good start.
Yeah.
We really do, and of course, I think Hollister. Of course, for people who are not familiar, Hollister is right next door to Branson.
Yeah, that's where I live now.
And me too.
Yeah.
And we've got a cool historic downtown with some growing number of businesses in downtown. And, you know, and a lot of this, and we'll get Matt or Jess Farmer in at some point.
Yeah.
But Vintage Paris is, I think, the seed of so much of this, in terms that something that you said, because of the tourism industry that we have here, so much of our industry is geared towards serving guests. And I think for the most part we do a pretty good job of that. But there is so little that is with purpose and intent to serve those of us who live here.
Yeah.
And Matt was the first person that I talked to who really opened my eyes to that dynamic, and specifically opened my eyes to it from the fact that they were doing something that they wanted to make Vintage Paris a community hub where people could be taken care of as members of the community, as opposed to as tourists.
Yeah. Well, when I worked in, tourism, retail, and customer service, people would always ask me, you know, like, what is like some cool things to do around here that's like not the Landing, that's not on the Strip, and I'd be like, go to Hollister, it's right down the street from here, go to Vintage Paris, and go to the Poorhouse. I think at the time the Poorhouse was
The Black Horse Pub.
Black Horse Pub. And I'm like, but, you know, other than that, we don't have any cool boutiques, we don't have any art galleries, we don't have any, I mean, there's downtown Branson, but, you know, they're downtown Branson.
Yeah, and it's very, you know, and I think one of the things, not to say that a lot of the tourism industry that's developed, I mean, you see it in Reno, you see it in Vegas, you see it in Wisconsin Dells. It's meeting a very specific need and certain expectations, but something that is largely lacking is that original local people taking care of local people, expressing themselves through art, and also creating, as an outcome of that you create ultimately pieces of art or pieces of craftsmanship, and particularly art, that are one of a kind. They're not going to be mass produced. They're not going to be a brand that, you know, was developed and sold at a specific store because that brand was going to work, that kind of thing. But instead going, no, this is something that a local person feels passionate about creating, and here it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's only going to get more popular as we get older, because we are such a like disposal type of generation where we saw our parents collect junk. We all know someone that's a hoarder. Like, I think like younger people are wanting to start like buy things that last a long time and they're unique, and they're not just buying it just to have or just to throw away. Like,
right.
You know, as much as I love IKEA, I also do appreciate like handmade furniture.
Right.
You know, and I'd love to see a handmade furniture store in Branson.
Which would be so cool.
Yeah, it would be incredible.
And especially the opportunity, I think, and I love being able to do this. I like being able to connect with the people who actually create things.
Well, and when I go to other cities, the first thing I do is look up like their art museums or local art galleries, because that's all I want to do in other cities. And I know there's a lot of other people that are like me too. They're like, I'm going to Dallas. Like, what's some cool stuff to do there?
No doubt.
Yeah. So I'm always recommending, you know, this and that or whatever.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about your artwork.
Okay.
What does it? You tell me what it means. You can tell me what you think of me for saying that.
I'm gonna pull my knife out of my bag here and stab you in the face.
I've got a knife over here. You know I said that on purpose, just to be a jerk.
It's great.
No, but seriously, I think this is important. We were having a fun conversation over some Dublin Coddle about this. So, like, the questions of, you're so talented, you're so amazing, what does your art mean?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I get when people talk to me. And I like to be like, well, nowadays I take myself a little bit more seriously than I used to. I used to, like, feel awkward. Feel unintelligent because I'm not very book smart and like, oh, art, it's just this thing that I do and it's just a hobby. But nowadays I'm like, it is a skill and I can make money. I don't like the starving artist like mentality.
Yeah.
I joke about that a lot. Like, I'm an artist, but I'm not starving. I actually have a mortgage and I can pay for it. You know. I don't believe that I was just naturally born talented. I think that's like a total misconception that people have. I was born with a passion for a particular thing that I studied and practiced and got criticism and entered into contests and didn't win a lot of the times and talked to people. You know, I worked hard at it and I want to be even better than I am 10 years from now, you know. And I don't talk to electrical engineers and be like, wow, you're so smart. Like, were you just like born smart? Like, that's kind of insulting, right? Like,
it is.
It discredits a lot of their hard work and their passion for what, you know.
Because we don't just like pop into this world.
Yeah, like Josh,
capable.
like, you're just such a good writer. Did you just like come out of the womb writing novels? Like, no.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So as much as I appreciate it when people say that, just, I don't know.
There's an educational component that needs
Right.
to take place, which of course is a great opportunity right here.
Right. People can always compliment you in a more creative way, something that's a little bit more meaningful than just, oh, you're that talented.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't upset me, but it's making me think about like how I want to compliment other people.
That's a really good point.
In something that I'm very unfamiliar with.
Right. And I think, and this brings up a really good point. I want to throw this out here. I've been studying on this for a while. I think it was all John F. Kennedy's fault.
Oh, really? Okay.
Let's just begin.
Care to explain?
Yeah. So, yes, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
I do. Something that we have struggled with is understanding the importance of the arts. We oftentimes, so basically I'll walk it backwards. So we and you and I have both grown up in the generation that says, okay, if you want to do something with your life, you need to be in, you know, science, technology, engineering, or medicine. And if you want to do art, that's great as long as it's a hobby, it's something on the side, you know. So if you say, like, for example, if you say, like, you know, if you're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I want to be an engineer. People are like, oh, right. But if you say, I want to be a writer, they're like, yeah, that's nice. Go be an engineer.
Yeah.
I don't think that our overall educational structure, of course, you and I were both raised outside of public school, outside of the traditional structure. So we're a little bit, or I'm talking about myself anyway, I'm certainly a little bit out of the groove, out of the loop.
Well, okay. Well, for example, I'm a visual artist, which usually means like, you know, graphic design, web design, billboard signs, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, that is an art form that you can easily make money at.
Yeah.
Or at least people are like, oh,
they understand
I can
it.
hire you to make a website for me. And like, for me, like, more of like I don't like to say fine art. I like to try and do a little bit more sophisticated pieces that are still fun and relatable.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to do more murals, and a lot of the times businesses aren't thinking like, I'm gonna set money aside to put some cool stuff on my building.
Right.
They're just looking to, you know, update their logo or whatever. And like, no disrespect to graphic designers, they're incredible. I am not a graphic designer. But yeah, like when I was in high school, I was like, well, my passion is contemporary and modern art. That's what I want to create. I see myself in this huge studio working on 10 by 10 canvases, you know, just massive canvases, and being in art shows someday. But I don't have the balls to attempt to try and be in a gallery because there's no way I'm that good. Like, I immediately was like very self-defeated. And like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to be one of the greats. And I still think I'm never going to be one of the greats, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I would much rather focus on making an impact in my local community because I care about it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like even when I was young, I just still had this like self-defeating attitude of like, I really like this, but my parents don't even take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are like, oh yeah, of course you're gifted, da-da-da, it runs in the family. Like, yeah, you like to draw horses, it's great. But there was never a conversation of like, what are you passionate about and where do you see yourself being as an adult?
Yeah.
Like,
mm-hmm.
but yeah,
and
it is all about
a lot of that structure when you're in that position, especially as a teenager, I think, and as a young adult, the structure of going, okay, projecting myself as an artist, what's that going to look like? What's that going to be? So, so to answer the question that I posed, it was JFK's fault.
Right.
the obsession over essentially STEM classes, science, technology, engineering, medicine.
Oh.
That largely began. Certainly, there was portions of it that were in place, but that largely began with the space race.
Okay.
Saying the future of America is technology, and so if you're going to be a little boy or girl who is going to be productive in society, you're going into technology, essentially.
That's interesting.
Because and I love the space race. I've been a Cape Canaveral and the whole bit. I mean, it's awesome. I was a little kid. I think I was 2.5 years old when the Space Shuttle Columbia came back to Earth.
Oh wow!
And I think Easter weekend, and we were vacationing in Port Arthur, Texas. And I remember walking into the motel room and staring at the television set that was like the television set on the pedestal, back when they would do the old television sets with the knobs on the pedestal. Apparently the pedestal that was so heavy that it was difficult to like pack it out and steal it, I guess. I don't know. And walking in and watching the space shuttle come down. So
I'm so jealous. The only thing I've seen on TV was 9/11, and that was depressing.
That is
depressing.
depressing.
I'm jealous of my mom. She got to see us landing on the moon and the first Star Wars, and she doesn't appreciate it that she's been part of American history in that way.
Oh my gosh, I got to see the third Star Wars. I was.
I saw the first, second, and third in theaters.
Yes.
I was a total nerd.
Oh, so was I. I saw Phantom Menace 5 times.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
That's awesome.
I just kept going back. I absolutely loved it, and I love I loved it in the theater. Then I kind of got sucked into the whole let's rip on the prequels.
Oh, of course.
The whole kind of thing. But coming back to art, and I just gave you are you gonna get that book, the Camille Paglia?
Oh yeah.
I just I've just finished reading. I'll post it on Instagram, but I just finished reading Glittering Images by Camille Paglia, and of course she takes you through all of Western civilization art in a really short read, and then at the end, her opinion of the great art piece of the early 21st century is Revenge of the Sith, and I actually read, because I typically read books like that backwards to forwards looking for pictures, and then after I find the pieces that I like, then I go in and dig in. And so I read the chapter on Revenge of the Sith
That's funny. That's
first.
what I do too.
Yeah, it's
Be an artist thing.
I think it is. It's
This book doesn't have pictures for this.
and I think that it and one of the things that I love about Camille Paglia's book, and I also love about our conversations, is that we both love art. We're not all that interested in, is it sophisticated, is it highbrow, is it this, is it that, what do the critics say about it? It's like, do we like it?
Right.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
But even if I don't like something, I like to express why I don't like it.
Yeah.
Why is it not visually appealing to me? Why it doesn't have a certain aesthetic?
Yeah.
And that's a really good conversation to have.
Yes, it is.
Because everyone can look at something and be like, no, I don't like it. But
That's true.
Why? Does it make you uncomfortable? Like, is it ugly? Is it minimal? Is it just a white canvas? Like,
what is it?
Why was the white minimalist paintings, why are they in museums? Like, let's talk about the minimalist movement in the early 20th century. Like, having that's what's fascinating to me about art. I mean, like, I'm not a huge fan of Renaissance art, but I like looking at it because those people were just so I'm gonna use the word talented. They were so skilled
Very
at
skilled.
what they did,
Very much
considering
so.
the times back then
Oh,
where
yeah.
they had to make their own oil paints, they had to make their own brushes, like they had no lighting at night. Like I can't imagine.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't have a photo reference. Yeah, so I'm just like I'm like, what can I learn from this piece? I don't really care for it, but there's always something you can learn from it.
It is. It is. What do you think of Audubon? Have you seen all the birds? John J. Audubon went and painted all the birds in the early 19th century, and they're look it up. They're like super contorted. They're super realistic, but they're really contorted and like flamingos in really odd poses. And the reason is that before again, no photo reference.
Oh, I've seen this. Okay,
Yeah.
I've seen his stuff before. Yeah.
No. Of course, this was before the day of photo references. So what he would do?
Yeah, I don't know how they did it.
I can tell you how he did it. He shot him, and then positioned him on a canvas, which is why they're in such odd shapes.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yes, we're just glad he didn't want to paint cats.
Oh, people couldn't paint cats back in the day. Have you noticed
Mm-hmm.
that? Like they can paint babies in their satin little garments perfectly, but
And
the
then you have,
cats
like-
in the corner are like. Bleh.
Demon cat with a child face.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah,
that
it's
was
very-
making its rounds. Oh my gosh, yeah. And that was terrifying. That was absolutely terrifying. Yeah, so Audubon would shoot birds and then paint them, or at least sketch them out in real time, and then oftentimes eat them.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's like getting in touch with your art.
So I learned something today.
There you go.
You knew something about art that I didn't.
And you know a lot about art that I don't. I'm not even sure. I'm familiar with minimalism,
Yeah.
but I don't really know what it is or who did it. So
It was like a rebellious movement against abstract expressionism.
okay.
So you're familiar with Jackson Pollock?
Mhm.
He's like probably one of the most famous abstract expressionists.
Yeah.
And he was very commercialized.
Mhm.
He was in American Life magazine. He was in Life magazine. You know, he was like that traditional American cowboy, relatable. Like, oh, the common folk will think this is a cool dude. He's
Yeah.
You know, so he
Right.
got a lot of that was a big movement, and so there were some people that were just like, it was a
Sort of a response
a
or
response
reaction.
to it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's really fascinating.
I do too. I do too. So, trying to think. What else do we want to talk about? So much.
How awesome I am. No, I'm kidding. You do way too much of that. I'm just always like, stop lying, stop. I'm not used to this. What's happening?
Before we go, I do want to talk about your style. We'll of course have links for folks to go over to your website.
Yeah.
But you have I feel like you have a very recognizable style, and I really like it.
Thank you. I still feel like it's a little bit developed here and there.
Mhm.
Last year, I guess the year before. Oh my gosh, it's 2019. 2017, I was getting stuck, and I was like, I'm going to try and learn realism, or oil painting and realism. And so I tried really hard to master that, and I felt pretty comfortable doing it. And so I kind of went back to doing acrylic paintings a little bit more. I like to call it like contemporary realism because it's like an interpretation of realism. Like
Yeah.
the shadows and highlights and the colors don't always make sense, but you can tell what it is.
Right.
And then
And that makes it very accessible.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's playful. I use a lot of paint like straight out of the tube. I mean I'm a lazy artist. You know? No. I like to paint animals, and right now I'm kind of on this like neon sign kick.
Yeah, I noticed
and so
that.
I'm like wanting to do more animal portraits with like a fun, like something you would see in like a rich celebrity's home in New York City.
I like that.
You know? Playing with realistic light.
Yeah.
Trying to get better at like just kind of coming up with lighting and not using so much of like a particular reference, like interpreting the reference photo.
Yeah.
So every year I feel like I'm always like trying to do something different. So.
Which is good. I mean, that's how we all grow. I mean, I do the same thing, or certainly strive to do the same thing with my writing.
Yeah.
You want it to keep getting better.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really, really liked, and if I were to describe your style, I would put it somewhere between contemporary and mid-century. There's a quality to it that reminds me of like sort of a, not that you're copying, but a
heavily influenced.
an influence from mid-century design, 1950s design.
It's my favorite era.
and I I am really, really excited to see some of those elements come back, certainly in popular culture as a whole, because I grew up at the tail end of when the original mid-century design was just going like out of fashion, getting replaced with, you know, shag carpeting and things that were all colored orange and avocado.
Yeah.
Which I do like avocado.
By the way, I think it's really fun. Everyone usually like hates trends, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think a lot of people don't realize that the 80s and 90s are back in style again.
Right.
And I'm like obsessed with it. And I'm always wearing like cool vintage clothing by Downing Apparel. And people are always like, oh, hey, like I had that in 8th grade. And I'm like, yeah, they're back in style. Like, you should have kept that tacky windbreaker. It would have been worth like $50. No, but I'm obsessed with it.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And probably what we have time for is I really want to talk about this because you did a mural recently at a certain place called Skate World in Branson.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cool stuff in there. But in my personal opinion, the absolute coolest thing is that you put it's in a Polaroid, isn't it? You know what I'm talking about. Of the USS Enterprise.
Yeah.
But not just any Enterprise. the Enterprise from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah.
NCC 1701.
The best series.
The best series with Captain Picard and, of course, Commander Riker.
Yeah.
And who inspired my beard. And so tell me about that mural. That thing is huge. That mural is massive.
It's 300 feet long. It goes all the way on the inside of the rink, and it's like about 7.5 feet tall. So I was fiddling around with art and considering going to Kansas City and St. Louis and trying to get into galleries up there and trying to do more of like the fine arts. And I'm like, well, I doubt I'll make any money doing this, but whatever. Because I was struggling between like trying to do like, you know, realism and like I'm not a cartoonist. I don't do like super cartoony stuff either.
Yeah.
And doing that mural at Skate World really helped me like kind of find like the stuff I like to do. So I just approached the owners and I was like, hey, like I'm gonna do something. What do you think? And they're like, oh yeah, whatever. So I had the balls to do that, which I don't like talking to people. And they were really cool with like basically whatever I did, and I barely charged them anything, but I had so much fun doing that.
And it was so when you went in there, did you like sketch out concepts or did
no,
you just
I literally put skates on. My husband and I happened to be there that night. It was like our anniversary, and I guess we had dinner. We're like, what do we want to do? I guess we'll go to Skate World and skate around. And he knew the owners from high school. He used to work at the bumper boats, like right out in front. So we were talking to the owners, and when I showed them my art on my phone, I think they kind of didn't have a good reaction. So I'm like, oh, they're not gonna want me to do a mural. But the only other option is that they were gonna find like a big vinyl print something on the wall. I don't know. Yeah. And they're like, we're not sure yet. So I'm like, well, can I sketch something up and like show it to you? And they're old people and I don't have an iPad, so I literally did it on like paper. A roll of brown construction paper. I don't know if y'all have seen that, but I literally did. Like, and you have to roll it up. Yeah. So I showed that to them. They're like, oh yeah, this is cool. No, but I put on skates. I don't have a hard time coming up with ideas. Yeah. I am very different from other artists. Like usually I'm like, okay, 4 subjects, and then I edit back, and then I come up with a color palette, and then I come up with composition. It's easy. Actually, finishing projects is really hard for me. No, but I was skating around and I was like, I see a disco ball, I see traffic light, I see flamingos, I see tropical stuff. Like, I want to incorporate something that if you're 5 years old or you're 105, you're going to be like, oh, I remember that, that's cool. Like, some kind of nostalgia, because Skate World was very nostalgic for me. I grew up skating there every week in the homeschool group, and I was like, what do I remember about growing up here? That arcades, the grunginess of it, like the funness of it, like, you know, I like unicorns, I love space stuff, so I'll put in the iconic space shuttle. I'll put in a little bit of like Elon Musk Tesla in space, kind of, you know, a little nod to the future, you know, this and that, and I just like literally did whatever I thought of doing, and it turned
works.
out okay.
I think it's amazing.
And from there, I've just been getting jobs, so I'm very happy that I was brave enough to try and do that.
Yeah.
And because now I'm like, oh, I think this is what I want to do with my art career, because I would have never tried to attempt doing murals 10 years ago because no one else was doing it. No one encouraged me to do it. I just never thought about it. And I feel like it's very niche around here. Like, I don't have, there aren't a lot of people around here doing that. And I'm like, I feel like if people want my style and they're cool with me doing whatever, I'm going to probably do the job. And I'm going to really enjoy it. It's like, I was out in the sun today for 5 hours and I was sweating my ass off, and I was like, I love this. I would never want to do another job ever. So yeah, I found what I'm really passionate about, and it seems to be working. And there's a lot of businesses that I'm probably gonna approach in the future about doing art on their walls. Like, I want to do a mural in the Vintage Paris patio. I want to do one in downtown Branson. Like, it's gonna happen. You know, whether I get paid well or not. I really want to get my name out there and have people, you know, appreciate me for what I do, because before I was doing whatever, trying to be like, oh, I'm growing as an artist, but then I'd be like, I'm not happy doing this. If that makes sense. You know
it sure does.
Like,
it sure does. And in circling back to something you said, which I think is so powerful, that art, it takes skill, it takes practice, it takes passion,
and people skills, like business skills. I don't have skills. I have nunchuck skills. Girls only want guys with skills. Sorry, I'm pulling Dynamite reference.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. But I think it for up and coming artists and for young folks who want to be artists, to be able to say, this takes skill, this takes passion, this takes practice. Those are accessible things.
Yeah,
it's not something
you can
that
do
you
that
just
on the internet.
Yeah, it's not something that you either like, yay for you, you've got it, or too bad for you, you don't. This is something that can be done.
Yeah, well, and it's one thing to like go to college for art and have a lot of hands-on experience with art. It's another thing to actually live in the real world and having no experience talking to other people or even asking for help. Like, that's why I'm trying to talk to artists. Like, I'll message someone on Instagram that I see them doing a piece, and I'm like, if you ever need help or you want to collab or you want to get involved in stuff, like, let me know.
Yeah.
Like, opening the door, because I feel like social media is it's so overwhelming and intimidating, especially for kids that are 10 years younger than me. I'm like almost 30, like, I'm old, but like I can still relate to those teenage kids, like being like, I can't ask them for help or I can't ask for feedback and like that.
Or asking the wrong person and getting really bad advice or feedback.
And then they just totally quit because one person said something mean to them. I mean, that's what my father was for me. He didn't care about my art at all. But anyway, like, I want to always keep that conversation going, like building the community. Like, I'm not doing what you're doing, but at least
you're doing a very crucial part. You are very crucial.
Well, trying to get artists that would have never thought about getting involved or creating outside of a school project.
Yes, exactly.
Something. Yeah,
exactly.
Like, you can do this for a living. Like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It took me a while, but I'm doing it.
Same here, you know, and that's it is exciting.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to have you back in the studio.
Yeah, I'm coming back every week until the end of eternity.
Awesome. And for folks who want to find you on social media or on the interwebs,
I go by Beauty from Light.
Yes.
Only because Riutzel is a very difficult name to pronounce and spell. So Beauty from Light is pretty simple. Oh, you want to know the story behind that name?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was back in the DeviantArt days, and this is when I was doing photography. That's how, for a while I was making a living doing photography, and I quit. Which I still love doing, by the way. So I was on DeviantArt, and I was like coming up with this username, and I took a few classes at college, photography classes, and they were talking about like without the existence of light, there can be no photography or whatever. And I was like, oh, like, and then there was like that one Bible verse about like beauty from ashes or whatever.
Yeah.
I forgot which one it is, but I was like, oh, beauty, like that's okay. So that's gonna be my username on DeviantArt, and someone else had taken it, and so but I just ended up like using that, and then I could never come up with anything better than that. So again, it's, I don't know, but yeah, Beauty from Light on Instagram. I'm working on a video and I'm working on a website, but yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I like it.
Follow me on Instagram and send me a message.
You got it.
And tell me how cool I am.
You are so talented. You're an artist and you are so talented.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for being here, Christine.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, look, we're back.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching behind the scenes, you realize that even though our guest hasn't left, we talk about her as though she has. I like it.
I can leave them. Right
No,
now.
stay here.
Did you hear something?
What? No, I didn't hear
okay.
anything. Oh, there's so many terrible ways that could go, and we're just being.
I didn't mean it offensively, of course.
No, I know you didn't.
I'm in Ethan's territory. I have to be careful.
Oh. Oh.
Jerry's been feeding you lies.
So Ethan, you're back.
Yep.
And you'd actually stepped out for a while, so you weren't following along in the conversation.
No, it'll be a surprise.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to surprising you.
Yeah, I get to hear interesting stories about water moccasins out there. So
Nice, nice. It's it is always a guess what's going to be discussed in the State of the Ozarks waiting room.
That's basically what it is.
It is the State of the Ozarks waiting room. The doctor will see you now. No. Yikes. I'm just getting into really weird territory, but it was, you're going to like it. It was a fantastic visit with Christine Riutzel. So, to learn more, visit us on stateoftheozarks.net.
Sign up for the State of the Ozarks weekly email.
Like State of the Ozarks on Facebook.
Follow at Soda Media on Twitter.
Subscribe to Soda Media on YouTube.
Follow us on Instagram at State of the Ozarks.
And subscribe to this Been Thinking About podcast on iTunes. Thank you for listening to Been Thinking About, the State of the Ozarks podcast with Josh.
And Ethan.
And this is our Ozarks.
Your community.
Yay. Good job, Francos.
It's us.
Oh,
Good night, guys.
Sorry, video.